This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? It is Thursday night and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. We're going to be discussing the unfortunate news that we're going to be missing Alisson for around 6 weeks, so we'll talk about that tonight. Links to Mark Guehi with a club in the Premier League that isn't Liverpool. We'll discuss that. A young Brazilian star that Liverpool are looking at. We'll have a talk about him. A little bit on Michael Olise. And we'll run through some of the games, of course, that Alisson may miss for the Reds. We'll have some talk on Adam Wharton and lots of other bits and pieces that we hope will keep you right up to date over the next 90 minutes or so. A couple of other things really early before I forget. The preview for the game coming up against Chelsea, that'll be out tonight at 10:45. It's already recorded, scheduled and ready to go, so that'll be coming out just after the stream. I think that pretty much keeps us right up to date. If you had a chance, do let me know what you thought of the latest episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast, which went out last night. Myself, Connor and Chris got stuck into, well, the game, of course, at the weekend, the Champions League game, and we looked ahead to the game at the weekend. So that's where we're at this evening, ladies and gentlemen. As always, lovely to be here with you. I hope you're all in good spirits. And yeah, look, it's disappointing news, isn't it, to start off with about Alisson. I want to just say thank you as well to Frank, who upgraded his membership just before I went live to Anfield Agenda Ultras. Absolute legend, Frank, mate. Thank you for that. So yeah, look, as I mentioned, it's not the greatest news tonight around Alisson, but it is probably what we thought was going to be the case. We knew he was out of the game of the weekend, but now he's going to be ruled out of, well, the next 6 weeks. That confirmed by David Ornstein, by the way. You can find it on the Anfield Agenda X account. Alisson Becker likely to be out for around 6 weeks, according to David Ornstein. That would see him miss Chelsea, Manchester United, Real Madrid, and the Manchester City game, amongst others. So we'll look tonight at, well, what the difference is with or without Alisson in goal and how Liverpool have fared over the years. And I guess we'll have a conversation around the increased amount of injuries that Alisson has picked up in the last few years. Now, I'm not trying to say we should be doing anything about that, but I think it's certainly an interesting discussion that maybe Georgie Marmadashvili will get more opportunities than he would have initially thought. So loads to go through, and yeah, let's get stuck into it. Right, where are we going? At least 2 weeks of the international break, said Hammer UK. Yep. And also then when you come back, mate, you've only got another few weeks until we're talking about another international break as well. That's the I guess the upside of this for us, if there is any. One, Alisson won't be travelling back and forth to Brazil for those two, so there is that. And the fact that we have 2 weeks break now, then we play in November for a while, then there'll be another international break in November. You know, if you were to pick a time for it, this could be one of the better ones if there ever is, you know, a decent time to be without a goalkeeper the calibre of Alisson Becker, who, of course, has saved us so many times over the years. And, you know, we often debate a lot on here as Liverpool fans. We talk about centre-backs, forwards, midfielders, who should play here, there, or everywhere. But nobody ever has any doubts about Ali because, in my opinion anyway, he is top 3, if not the best goalkeeper in the world. So that's where we're at with that one, ladies and gents. Lots went through earlier on as well in the video. I hope you got a chance to watch it today. We run through some of the numbers, basically, of squad valuations assembled and what they're now worth, and we'll talk about that tonight as well. Yeah, loads to go through. Let's start off with a quote from Mark Guehi, who, when asked about his failed transfer to Liverpool, had this to say: "I don't have much to say, to be honest. I'm focused on playing football and playing for this club. It's something I don't think of at all. My only focus is on the club. But something came out this evening that, well, concerned me a little bit. We had Lewis Steele report that Liverpool are insistent that they will not be signing Mark Guehi in January, but he goes on to say, remember the word in late August was that Liverpool wouldn't be signing Isak either, and we all know how that one went. But one report tonight said that we aren't even the favourites to sign Mark Guehi. This report here from Caught Offside said Spurs are judged to be more likely to sign Crystal Palace captain Mark Guehi over Liverpool, Real Madrid and Barcelona. So let me just ask really quickly for the first poll of the night, do you believe that report? Because I struggle with it. But we'll talk about it in a second. Let me just type it out. So, right, so do you believe Mark Guehi is more likely to join Spurs, as Caught Offside have suggested? Yes or no? For me, look, I don't have any inside information on this transfer, like I've said to you guys all the way through the summer. But I struggle, other than the London thing, I struggle to figure it out. And also, I don't know if the London thing is a factor for Mark Guehi, because if you read quotes from him in the past, he's spoken about the fact that he'd actually prefer to be up maybe Manchester, Liverpool, up the north a little bit. He said he's not really a city person and doesn't really have a whole group of friends really in and around London. So I'm a little bit dubious on it. I've no doubt Spurs would be interested. Why wouldn't they? You know, he's a very good player, Premier League proven, England international. So I just I struggle to see, if we are still interested, why would he be more interested in going to Spurs than Liverpool? I really can't figure that one out. So I'm saying I'm dubious about that report from Caught Offside. Let me know whether you believe it or not as well. David, how are we, dude? Said, evening, Craig, bro, and our lovely community. Always a pleasure to see you in, my man. Do feel free, by the way, folks, to keep me up to date with what's going on in the Europa League games. I had seen that Forest were 2-1 down to Midfield just before I came on. Villa, I think, were still 0-0, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, did you guys see the Celtic game earlier on? Now, I'm no fan of any club up in Scotland, really. Don't pay attention to Celtic, Rangers. Aberdeen would be a club I have some fondness for. But did you see the goal that was ruled out for Iheanacho for Celtic tonight? That is probably one of the biggest indictments of VAR that I've seen in recent years. It was ruled out for a handball, and neither me nor the commentators nor anybody who's watched the back that I'm aware of sees the handball. It just doesn't exist. So how on earth VAR could look at that, spend 2-3 minutes going over it and over it and over it, and still rule the goal out, I think is an absolute disgrace. And if I was a Celtic fan, I'd be fuming over it. But as a football fan, I'm confused as to how they came to that conclusion. You know, you look at it, the ball doesn't touch his arm, the rotation of the ball doesn't change, go near his arm, and it comes up and hits him squarely in the face. Commentators were even bemused at why it was taking them so long to give the goal, let alone rule it out. The people on comms on TNT Sport were saying, it's ridiculous, what are we waiting around for? You know, nothing wrong with it, let's give the goal. But they didn't. Philip said there could be an argument, not mine, that Tottenham are on the way up and we're on the way down. I mean, even optimistically, you know, going with that argument, like you've said, mate, it isn't your argument, but look, they're a good club. They've got a decent manager in there in Thomas Frank. They've got a beautiful stadium. You know, will they be a regular Champions League club? I guess that remains to be seen. But I still say, why would you join a club on the up when you could join a club that is there, and a club that you could arguably come in and improve, that will more often than not have Champions League football? And I know Spurs won the Europa League, and fair play to them, but Liverpool were more likely, I would say, to challenge for the bigger trophies than Spurs. So yeah, I just feel, again, it's one of those pieces that's designed to get clicks from us as Liverpool fans. I've seen other reports that said he was going to go to Real Madrid, and he'd already told Real Madrid and all, and Liverpool. He's furious, they said. So yeah, I don't put much faith in it, to be honest, but it's a talking point, so I wanted to bring it up. Brad, evening, Craig. Possibly Glasner to United. What do you think? And also Forest losing. So from what I've seen, it doesn't look like United are actually going to fire Ruben Amorim. but is that because they can't get a replacement? So in one breath, I'd seen this earlier on from Transfer News Live, quoting the Daily Star, and they said Manchester United co-owners Ineos are concerned that Ruben Amorim may opt to step down. Not about firing him, that he might opt to step down before being sacked in a bid to protect his managerial reputation. But the very next piece is hilarious from the same outlet as well, quoting the Mirror, and they say Gareth Southgate would reject an approach from Manchester United. So I don't know if Amorim's clinging on there because United don't really have anybody to come in or take his place, or because they can't afford to fire him. But either way, it's certainly funny to watch from the outside. I want to just take a second to say thank you to somebody. So one of the guys that owns and runs Anfield Index reached out to me after seeing a video that we put out last week. I think it was a clip from one of our late night streams where we were talking about the abuse, the trolling, the threats, and a few other things in this, including Liverpool blanking us and stuff. And I want to just say thank you to those guys for reaching out, because it's not often it happens in this industry. You know, friends that you deal with on a regular basis, like Lee Gunner, would always reach out to me. But to have one of my peers, and a fellow Liverpool content creator, reach out to say that, you know, one, I had their support, and two, they're disgusted by what was happening. I really appreciate that. I've always got a soft spot for Anfield Indexes. It's where I started my journey. I did my first ever podcast with them. So I wanted to say a public thank you to our friends at Anfield Index. Class acts as always. He did the leaving video. His friends and family were there for it. They may feel disrespected now. So it wasn't our fault, though, that the deal didn't happen. So that's what I'm confused about. Crystal Palace pulled the plug on the move. As you said, he'd done the goodbye video at Palace. You know, he'd come up and he's had his medical in Liverpool's London offices, I believe, is where the paperwork and stuff has been sorted out. So I don't see any reason that he could possibly have for being frustrated at Liverpool. But yeah, look, let's wait and see. I'm confident. And look, I'm not basing this confidence on inside information. It just, as a fan, I feel, you know, if Liverpool still want him, and I imagine nothing's changed on his side, then why not still come to the Reds? Paul McKeown said, Celtic, my Scottish team, and I was raging. Craig, win on Saturday, and hopefully we can put the last two matches down to an early season blip. That's what I'm hoping. Paul, as I said, mate, I was disgusted just on behalf of football to see that decision in the Celtic game. And if it was a United game and any other game, I would promise you I'd be bringing it up, because it was beyond ridiculous how that was given as a handball. And it's a real indictment of VAR, in my opinion. Also, it's finally happening. The biggest news that I've had for a while, it's finally happening. The office is getting built. It was signed off on today. It was agreed today. And the building process is going to start at the end of this month. So we're hoping before Christmas we'll be able to show you around a fully built and kitted out Anfield Agenda studio that we will be able to give you different types of content from. We'll have a green screen background. We'll have a real world setup. And we hope to be able to bring you varied styles of content, different types of videos, and a few other interesting things that we can't do because of restrictions now. So this has been a huge day for me. I have worked for 5, 6, 7 years to get to this point that that we can afford it, first and foremost, but that it's actually going to happen. It's incredible. And I want to just thank all of you, because it's your support that's allowed this to happen. And it's completely going to be self-funded from our business. There's no sponsorship coming on board. There's nothing. It's just saved up by Anfield Agenda, thanks to your incredible support. And yeah, man, love you all dearly for letting me have this dream. And, you know, it's a huge step. Huge step for us as a channel. And I'm incredibly excited by what's possible now. So yeah, much love to you all, and without you guys it wouldn't be happening. Simple as that. Right, let's get cracking. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to discuss. A really interesting stat was put up by The Athletic, and in this they said, they gave a list of Premier League clubs and Premier League players, the ones who have engaged in the most 1-2s, so give and goes, in recent years in the Premier League. These numbers are 1-2s completed in the Premier League since 2018, 2019. And it makes for very interesting reading because we've spoken about relationships on the pitch, and some of you guys have said to me, Craig, Mo's missing Trent quite a bit. And this will back up exactly what you guys have been saying. And so the people with the most 1-2s since 18-19 in the Premier League are Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold. They've played 1-2s to each other 39 times. So second place is Saka and Odegaard at Arsenal. But to run you through some of the relationships there with Liverpool and who had them, let me run you through the list. So top, as I said, Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold with 39. The next Liverpool pairing, again, this won't surprise you, Mohamed Salah and Bobby Firmino, who completed 28 1-2s to each other since 18-19. Then comes Andy Robertson and Sadio Mane. So again, you're seeing those relationships down the left-hand side, through the centre with Salah and Bobby, and then of course on the right-hand side with Salah and Trent. Also, Andy Robertson and Roberto Firmino come in on the list. Mane and Salah have 19 1-2s that they played to each other. Andy Robertson and Bobby Firmino had 17 1-2s they played with each other. So they're all the connections that we're talking about, those relationships that were built over years of continuity, playing together, learning each other's movements and stuff. It is important, and it was great to see those. So well done to The Athletic, by the way, in compiling those lists of stats, because it made for very interesting reading and backed up a lot of what you guys have been saying. Virgil said, hi man, would you agree both Canade and Salah should be benched, and what is your opinion on this slow football going side to side? So I guess the short answer is yes to the first part, but we've seen him do it with Mo, so I'm absolutely fine now for him to put Mo back in and see what happens. So we asked him to rest, rotate, bench, whatever words you'd like to use, Mo, because his form hasn't been the best, and he did it. And it didn't really change much for us. Now, it's just one sample size, one game. So I would say be bringing Mo back in now and hoping for that better performance, or, you know, a more determined Mo, if that's possible. So that side of it, I'm happy to see Mo back in. The Canade one, look, yes. Because there's a few reasons. And it's nothing to do with the contract. Other than... Sorry, that's wrong what I'm about to say. It's nothing to do with bitterness for me over the contract. But what message does it send if you keep playing a player like Ibu, let's say, who has been shaky? And this isn't a me saying it or a you saying it. I've said this to you yesterday. Pundits are saying it, analysts are saying it, podcasts are saying it. He's looked shaky this season. You know, he's had some good days and some bad days, but it's probably 50-50. So I think, yes, you have to. And then that's before you get into the argument about workloads on players and measuring that workload. So I would say it's a tough call, because you've got the options there are Canade or Gomez. And now look, Gomez played against Southampton and I don't think he pulled up any trees there or played magnificently well. So you got to ask yourself then, if you're the manager, do you go with the guy who had one shaky game but hasn't really had a rhythm, or do you go with the guy who plays week in, week out and has looked shaky? I would go with Gomez for the game against Chelsea, because I don't like the message it sends if you keep playing a player whose form has been up and down, and you have other players who you deem to be as good, or they wouldn't be at the club, in Joe Gomez. Yeah, you got to play him for me. So yes, I would rest him, mate. And on the side-to-side stuff and the slow football, like you and probably everybody else, I'm annoyed by it. I don't understand what we're trying to do, and it's not having the desired results. So whatever way we want to play, it's got to be quicker. So the slow side-to-side stuff is just irritating at this point, and yeah, it's got to be quicker. Joseph said, morning Craig from Australia, love the streams, thank you sir. David, congratulations, well deserved, thank you man, appreciate that as well David. Yeah, it's so exciting though. I'm buzzing for it, Dave. I can't believe it's actually really happening. Dino, the Lion, said, "What's up with Ali? Love to all the family." Thank you, man. Appreciate your membership with us. So, yeah, David Ornstein said earlier on that Alisson is going to be out for around 6 weeks, unfortunately, which is not the news we wanted to hear, is it? And in the spirit of that, let's look at how Liverpool have gotten on with and without Alisson. So these stats went out earlier on. I actually don't know who posted it initially, so I would credit them. I think it's the Premier League, actually. So Alisson's made 235 appearances for Liverpool, and the goals against that we concede when he plays average out at 0.9 goals per game. His save percentage is 73%. 2.2 points per match is what we average with Alisson in goal, and our win percentage is 66. Here's the really interesting thing, though. Without Alisson, we've been without him 37 times. Our goals per match does go up. We concede a little bit more when Alisson isn't there, with 1.3 goals per game. Save percentage of the keepers that have come in is 67% against them. But here's the interesting couple of stats. We actually gain more points per match without Alisson than we have with Alisson. That sounds insane to say out loud, but we gain 2.4 points per game without Alisson versus 2.2 points per game with him. And win percentage, that's even more surprising. So we're 66% when Alisson plays. Without Alisson, 73%. So somehow we have a higher points average and a higher win percentage without Alisson. That is one of those things that truly astounds me, because nobody will say that Alisson isn't a brilliant goalkeeper and that isn't a loss to the team when he's not there. It's a huge loss when he isn't there. Now, Kelleher always deputised very ably when he was at the club, so I guess that speaks to his quality as well. But it's a really interesting one, isn't it? To see that we've actually got, a higher win percentage and more points per game than when he's out. Never, ever, ever in a million years would have guessed that. Craig, do you think Klopp will come back to football in general as a coach? He seems to not want to. He's been pretty vocal about that and saying he doesn't want to coach again. I've seen a quote from him this very week, Lolly, saying just that, mate. That, yeah, his time as a coach is finished and he doesn't want to come back to it. He doesn't miss it. And he enjoys the standard of life that he has now. So he said this, we're not the final destination. We're not like Liverpool. We're not like Manchester United. Speaking about life with Red Bull, he said, you can write it if you want. Although, he also asked about a return to management. He said, I don't want to work as a coach anymore. That's what I think. But you don't know, excuse me. I'm 58. If I started again at 65, everybody would say, you said you'll never do it again. Sorry, I thought 100% when I said it. That is what I think now. I don't miss anything. So he certainly doesn't look like he has plans, mate, to come back into management. But it is football, like we say, and like anything else, we can never rule it out completely. Right, let's talk about squad values, if we can, for a minute, because a couple of interesting numbers came out today. So the most valuable clubs and their squad values have been released today by Transfermarkt. And it's really interesting. So here's what they reckon are the most valuable 10 squads in the Premier League, or in European football, sorry. Remember, this isn't what the club is worth. This is what they believe the combined squad is worth. Real Madrid top the list with a squad value of 1.4 billion euro. Next on the list, Arsenal. They reckon have a squad value of 1.33 billion euro. In third place comes Manchester City with 1.23 billion worth of a squad valuation. Fourth are Liverpool with 1.1 billion euro. Fifth, Barcelona, tied with Liverpool though at 1.1 billion. Chelsea are sixth with 1.08 billion. Paris Saint-Germain, seventh, 1.07. Then comes Bayern Munich with 907 million in valuation of their squad. Spurs have a valuation of 891 million euro. And in 10th place is Manchester United, who they reckon have a squad value of 723 million euro. A full 400 million euro pretty much behind Liverpool, Manchester United, City and others. So that's what they believe the squads are worth. But there's another stat that kind of looks at it in a slightly different way. And this one is the purchase value of the squad. So how much was actually spent to put these squads together. And that one is quite interesting because for Arsenal being the second most valuable squad, they're only the fifth most expensively assembled squad. So they're punching above their weight with what they've paid versus what their value is. Chelsea have the most expensive squad in, I guess, European football at 1.18 billion. That's what it cost Todd Boehly and Chelsea to assemble that squad. Manchester City, despite all Pep Guardiola's cry arson about Liverpool, Arteta and others, having money now and nobody mentioning that, well, Manchester City squad still cost 1.03 billion euro to assemble. Liverpool, we're now third with a squad that cost us 994 million euro to assemble. Manchester United fourth with 946. So United have somehow lost about 200 million. Because remember, their squad valuation was 740 odd million euro, but to put it together cost them 946. Only United could do that. Then is Arsenal in fifth place with 923 million euro to put together their squad. Interesting stuff. Also, and I loved seeing this on Sky earlier on because what's the guy's name that used to play for Spurs that does a bit of content on Sky these days? I can never remember his name, but he actually laughed out loud at this when he seen it because he couldn't believe this either. But Opta have Arsenal as the favourites to win the Champions League. And nobody seems to know how, since they've never, ever, ever won a European Cup. How can they be the favourites to win this competition that they've never won? But they are. Jamie O'Hara, that's the guy I'm trying to think of. So he laughed out loud at this, quite literally. Arsenal, they reckon, have an 18.09% chance to win the Champions League. Liverpool are second favourites, 14.7%. Paris Saint-Germain, the reigning champions, 13.96%. Man City, 9.71%. And Bayern Munich, 9.5%. Does anybody else agree with that? I don't know how they've come to the conclusion or what numbers they've ran there at Opta, but Arsenal favourites to win the Champions League. Let's see if they live up to that tag, because I don't see it, personally. Now, look, we have our own faults and lots to discuss, but, I wouldn't have Arsenal as favourites to win the Champions League. They'll be there or thereabouts, but favourites? Virgil said, for a long time, I wanted to ask you what your opinion is on Jones. For me, when I'm watching him, he always takes one touch extra and makes the game slower. So thank you for bringing this up, Virgil, because I think it is an interesting talking point. And I was an undoubted, sworn in, hands up in the air, Curtis Jones hater for ages. And when I say hater, I mean I didn't rate the guy. Under Jurgen, I would have sold him like that. And truth be told, if we had to sell a midfielder now in that advanced position, I probably still would be Jones. But I would have a bigger pause in my thinking time. Under Arne, he seems to have flourished a little bit. Now, he has really, really high levels ahead of him in the likes of Dominic Szoboszlai and Alexis McAllister. But I do think he's progressed under Arne Slot. But I cannot push back or argue with you about holding on to the ball too long. I still feel he does that. And I think most people in the chat would probably agree. But I always try to be fair. And if I was to sit here and say to you, I don't think he's improved since Arne's come in, I think I'd be lying to you. But I guess, is that improvement enough? Is probably another question, mate. So for me, if I had to sell a midfielder, an attacking or an advanced midfielder, I probably would be still selling Jones above anybody else, to be honest. So yeah, that's where I'm at with him. Improved, but not sure if he'll ever improve to the level where he'll be breaking in and starting week in and week out. West Side Stories said, personally seems like everybody is preying on our downfall more than usual. We true supporters have to push in order to separate true fans from bandwagon. So it's an interesting take that you've gone with there, because there are certainly some fans who are extremely fickle in their support. When everything's great, they love us. When everything's poor, they want everybody fired. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, to be honest with you, because I can't say I'm not a reactionary dude. I am. But I don't want anybody sacked. and I don't think our downfall is happening. But I am frustrated that we haven't played anywhere near what I think we're capable of so far this season. And I always say the same thing. It's like you've said. There's enough noise from the outside trying to cause us problems that I don't think we should be overly negative. I don't actually think I'm negative, believe it or not. I think I'm critical. And I think there's a difference. I want us to succeed. I believe that we'll succeed. I have every faith in Arna. I have every faith in Florian Wirtz. I believe they will both prove their worth. But I won't sit here and say it's great now, because that would be lying. And the bandwagon jumpers, there's two types for me. And the one that winds me up the most are the ones that are players of, or fans of players and not clubs. And it doesn't really matter. The easiest example for me to give you would be Salah FC. But I don't want to single out Mo, because he's not the only one. There were Sadio Mane fans that weren't really Liverpool fans. There were Sadio Mane fans. There's Salah fans who are Salah fans who don't really give a shit about Liverpool. They're the ones that wind me up. Because when things aren't going right for their guy, and anybody dares to criticise them, the abuse starts and the accusations come. And the accusations are always over the top. Whether you're called a hater, that's probably the best that you can be called, by the way. Then it goes into the unsavoury things about religion or race or any of that other type of crap. And when I say that other type of crap, I mean that gets labelled at you nonsensically, because nothing you've said is in any way critical of any of those things. They really, really wind me up, because they're undermining our own club from within. And that pisses me off. Because, like, let's say Mohamed Salah went and signed for, I don't know, LA Galaxy in 2 years' time. You know damn well that there'd be LA Galaxy fans all of a sudden then that were Mohamed Salah fans, that were professing to be Liverpool fans. I find this a really strange modern phenomenon, because we all have favourite players. That's absolutely normal. Like Robbie Fowler was mine, still is mine, growing up. But I find it very toxic when they're inside our fan base trying to piss on the club, because if club comes first for all of us, right? We support Liverpool. We have our heroes. They come and go, whether they're managerial, whether they're players. But I wonder, am I a hypocrite? And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I probably am a bit of a hypocrite, because I've often told you guys about NFL and how I start watching that recently. And I start watching it because of individual players. I start watching it because of Aaron Rodgers. I start watching it because of the brilliance of some of the quarterbacks. And it just blew my mind seeing these guys out there doing what they're doing. But I did pick a team, and I rested on the Packers at the end. So despite the fact that I absolutely love other quarterbacks and think they're brilliant, Packers are my club now. That's the team for me. So it's Jordan Love all the way, and happy days. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't like that non-club fan, player fan, because it very quickly gets toxic. Corbin said, watch PSG versus Barca last night. Both teams are so far ahead of us in style of play, and we're supposed to believe we're anywhere or we're favourites. So I haven't had a chance to watch that game. I've seen that PSG won it late though, which is a big result for them to win away from home at the Nou Camp. Or sorry, was it at the Nou Camp? I don't even know if Barca have moved, because they were at the Olympic Stadium. Then they were at their training ground or under-21 stadium, and I think they were trying to get back into the Nou Camp with a lower attendance till they got all their safety certificates. So there's no denying we're behind those guys, but there is also another side to this, and it's a good example to use because it was used to me yesterday. Look at Paris Saint-Germain when they went and lost at Newcastle, and look at them at that point. The funny thing about the Champions League, which really differentiates it from the Premier League, is it's about peaking at the right time. So in the Premier League, you've got to be a model, or in any league, you've got to be a model of consistency across 38 games. But in the Champions League, you can limp through the early stages. But as long as you hit form and peak by the knockout rounds, that will determine whether you win or lose the Champions League. So that's why I kept saying to you guys during the week, Saturday to me, it was annoying to lose against Galatasaray because, truly believe we're a better team than Galatasaray and shouldn't be losing that game. But Saturdays is the more important one because we don't have that same wiggle room in the Prem that we would have in the Champions League. And we can't just come good after Christmas and think we're going to win the Prem because we could be too far off the pace at that point. So yeah, I think in Champions League or any cup competition, more so the Champions League because of the way it's formatted now. It's about peaking at the right time. Think of it like a Super Bowl run for a team as well. If you can peak when the playoffs come, that gives you a good shout. Stevie Boy, will Slot start Dom at right back or in midfield? I don't think I know, Stevie Boy. I can tell you what I'll do because my preview is coming out. In my preview, and I don't want to give away too much because I want you to watch it, obviously. My midfield is the old one. That's what I did for a midfield. I went for Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai in the midfield against Chelsea. Because to me, common sense would dictate to go back to what you know. Go back to basics when things aren't well. And that tried and trusted midfield got us to the league last year. And Szoboszlai started the season really well. Maka, fair enough. He hasn't been in his best vein of form yet. But we know Maka will come good. So the biggest concern for me, though, is we've brought in 2 right backs, right? We gave Conor Bradley a new contract just at the end of last season. And then we brought in Jeremy Frimpong, Stevie Boy, for 40 million euro or £30 million. And he doesn't seem to trust either of the right backs. That's the biggest concern. Like, does he really not trust the right backs? Or is there something more specific he's trying to do short term that maybe we're not seeing before the right backs really settle in? It is a weird one, right? Because it's a lot like they're not fit, the right backs, both fit and available. And yet he still chose to go with Dominic Szoboszlai. Paul Owen said, totally agree, Craig, and Robbo as well. Well, again, I don't want to give away my preview because I'd like you to watch it, but you're along similar thought processes to myself there, mate. We've got Georgi Mamardashvili, of course, who is a sort of unknown quantity to us at this point. We've only seen small sample sizes. So we've already got contend with a new goalkeeper getting used to that back four. So yeah, I would say, look, I'm a big believer in when things are going wrong to go back to basics and build from there again. Because what I don't know at the minute is what on earth the style is that we're trying to play with Arda. Whether it's my lack of ability to really see something or if it isn't there, I'm confused. Like our friend a moment ago talked about the side-to-side pass and how slow it is. I think everyone's frustrated at that. And Virgil said, last one for you today. Do you think that Gakpo is good enough for us? Guy is the most predictable player and we're always the same thing over and over again. So, short answer is yes. I do think he's good enough for us. And there's nothing wrong with being predictable if you can get the results. And what I mean by that is, Salah was predictable, coming in onto his left foot, but he was still scoring a load of goals. Frank Ribery was predictable, cutting in on his favourite side, and he still managed a load of goals. Thierry Henry was somewhat predictable, but he still, it's one thing being predictable if you can get the results with it. And Cody is more often than not over the course of seasons chipped in with his fair share. But the gripe I have, Virgil, on the left-hand side is there used to be another option. So if Gakpo was having one of those games or periods in time where it wasn't clicking for him and he was doing everything but, you're not getting the goals and assists out of him. You used to have Diaz and used to be able to go, right, let's stick Lucho out there to do something different. Now we have Rio Engamoa, but we don't seem to have the same belief that he's ready to go from the manager to go in to do that thing of getting the ball down, running at defenders and changing up the way and style we attack. So I'm hoping Chiesa's fit for the weekend. Now, of course, I recorded my preview before the manager gave his Friday press conference because I like to let the preview sit for a couple of days before the game to give people enough time to watch them. So I've had to guess. And in my team, I've included Chiesa on that left side. because Gakpo hasn't been at it. Hasn't been awful, by the way. In any way. I'm just saying he hasn't been at the level we know he can, particularly with the goals. So I would say give Chiesa a run out on the left if he's fit for this game, and that we'll find out, I guess, tomorrow. And thank you, Virgil, by the way, for some really cool questions, which I really enjoyed actually thinking about and answering, and also for your support, mate. Appreciate you. Gaming, guys. Kunasatatu Makara. Liverpool in deep trouble without Alisson. Well, ironically, the stats point to something different, guys, and we were saying this earlier on. You know, my initial instinct is we're in trouble, like you've mentioned, but the actual data behind it is quite interesting. We basically, to cut a long story short for you guys, we have a higher points per match average and a higher win percentage without Alisson than we do with him, which kind of dumbfounds me because I believe, like you've said, that we are going to be in a bit of trouble without Alisson. Now, Georgie Mamardashvili is a very, very good goalkeeper, and I'm really interested to see how he gets on. But I'm more concerned about these injuries that Alisson has started to pick up going back over the last 3 years, let's say, in particular. Unfortunately, these muscle strains and injuries seem to be a recurring thing as he's moved into his 30s, and that is my longer-term concern. West Side Story said it's like we have our own undercover agents to Trojan horse us. Love your content, passionate but fair. You have my support, just like our club. You'll never walk alone. Thank you, mate. So I was reading through some comments on videos earlier on, and one guy said, I used to watch your content, but then it got very dark and very aggressive, and I watch Redmen TV because they're more light-hearted. And I didn't really know what to make of that comment. Like, it wasn't an abusive comment. It was a very honest assessment. But I wonder, like, you often think about your perception from people, how you come across. And I don't know if I'm dark. I'm aggressive. Fair enough. I'm demanding. I'm emotional. But I would think that that's what fans are supposed to be. Particularly, you know, ones that, like me or yourselves, that would live and breathe the club. Again, this has nothing to do with Redmen TV. I only bring up them because they were part of his comment. Not here for me to talk about Redmen or not. But I found it an interesting one. Because there are times where, yeah, I can go deep with stuff. And I can be negative. That's probably the fair word. But I think I'm passionate more than anything. But I thought it was interesting because it was a fairly worded comment. Like I said, he wasn't there to troll me around. It was an honest opinion. I always have time for an honest opinion. Mohit says, depends on their preference. 100%, bro. 100%. Some people do like a bit of light-hearted nature. Some people are more analytically led or statistically led. So, you know, I'll watch content creators like James Alcott, as an example, and I couldn't do what he does. You know, it's not my bag. That's not my thing to go into stats and numbers and deep dives into stuff. That's not the type of content I make. I'm a kind of passion merchant and I know it. So I try to stay in my own lane. But yeah, you're right. You know, preference is important. And you've heard me say a few times on here, I love that as Liverpool fans, we have so many different types of content to watch and listen to with different perceptions, viewpoints, styles. Yeah, I think it's really good. And that's why I love fan content so much, is there is something there. Like, if we watch Sky and we don't like the people on comms, let's say, for the game, you kind of feel a bit snookered. But at least as a fan, you'll find somebody that matches your taste, whether it's us, the Anfield Rap, Redmen, anyone. You know, you'll find somebody for your tastes. Views tell a story. Keep doing your thing, mate. Oh, look, again, I'm delighted by where we are as a channel. Over the moon. I do, because it always winds me up when I see people say, this lad just bans everyone who doesn't agree with him. That's a tone that you'll see in our chat so often. And it's not true. I'll ban people that are arseholes and I won't put up with them. But I never, ever, ever go in on anybody who doesn't start a row with me. It just doesn't happen. But that's the perception people have to put out there about this channel, is that, oh, I just ban everybody and I can't take any stick. That's not true. I just won't take abuse. You can disagree with me all day long and we can have a bit of fun with it and debate back and forth. But I'm never taking abuse because I believe in basic human decency. Paul said, the podcast this morning was lighthearted and funny. Just be careful with the lions roaring in Turkey. Oh, I couldn't help but throw Chris under the bus there with that one. Yeah, because it was funny, Paul, because we joked at the start of it about looking for that, that clickbaity moment, and then Chris presented it to me on a platter. So, yeah, I enjoyed it as well. Glad you did, man. Thank you. Martin said, I believe we're suffering at the back because we've lost balance in midfield and Dom's ability from there to cover for Mo defensively. There's definitely something to the right-hand side's relationships that Mo's trying to figure out. It's no accident, like you guys pointed out, and the data shows, that relationship with Trent was really good. The understanding was really good. But to have those same relationships work, Martin, I would say we need consistency of selection at right back and in midfield to start to help those relationships to form again with Mo. So whether it's going to be Bradley, whether it's going to be Frimpong, I don't want it to be Szoboszlai longer term because I think we're taking away too much from his game by playing him there. I think it's important that they get that repetition and those minutes together and we keep going with it because we do need to find a way to link up players better on that right-hand side in particular. Left-hand side, maybe not so much, although it probably still is a valid perspective because, of course, we brought in a new left-back as well with Milos Kerkez. You'll never walk alone. 20 said, I feel so bad for Isak. I mean, our midfielders who could have passed the ball to him very easily through gaps, but they ain't doing it. Guy needs guys going empty-handed. We're going to have to figure that out. Exactly as you've said. We brought in 2 centre forwards, and although the underlying data in the research showed that they were almost twins in the way that they play, because, that was spoken about quite often, that when they looked into Isak and they looked into Ekitike, and if they couldn't have got Isak, they thought Ekitike was a similar version. But yet when we've seen, and granted we've only had a small sample size, I've seen them play the game very differently at Liverpool. So Ekitike is definitely one it's dropping a little bit deeper and roaming left and right. Whereas if you look at the heat map for Isak, and again, very small sample size for him, you're seeing somebody who prefers to be central and does occasionally drift into the left, but isn't dropping as deep as Ekitike. So I guess my question would be, is Ekitike dropping deep out of frustration? Or is he dropping deep under instruction to try to create a hole or a space in behind? As fans, we don't know the answers to these questions because, we don't get the instructions from Arna. But I've noticed that difference. So yeah, we need to figure out how to get the best out of both of them. And particularly with Isak, for him to have come on, and I think he had about 33, 34 minutes against Galatasaray, and have had 4 touches. That's not good enough from us. We're giving him nothing to work with there. Gaming Gaz said, if you play like you did during the week, Chelsea will win Saturday evening. Yeah, but they're not great either at the minute, mate. Like, without trying and big up Liverpool more or anything, Chelsea are in a weird moment themselves. And Maresca's under a little bit of pressure. They've been getting red cards to beat the band. They've had injuries. Palmer's out. Delap is out. I wonder, are we getting them at the right time? If we show up and play 70% like we're capable of, I think we win on Saturday. So yeah, I'm actually at the point where I'm fully expecting us to win on Saturday because I think we're better than Chelsea, and I think this has to be the game where the lads spark a resurgence. They can't go 3 defeats on the bounce. They won't. I don't believe they'll let it happen. Truthfully, I really don't. So I'm predicting, and I'm not going to give you my score prediction, but I'm predicting a high scoring game on Saturday with 2 teams who are vulnerable defensively, and I think we're going to shade it. But we haven't won there in 5 years, so My wife refers to you as shouty Liverpool man. I can't watch a match without you now. Sending love to you and the family from Dublin. That's probably a good description that your wife's made, to be fair. Yeah, bald man shout at TV is probably a fair description. Yeah, I am. But my wife used to think that I was the only lunatic that shouted at the TV until she realised then that there was a whole worldwide collection of us that sit on the sofa shouting or sit in the chair shouting at the TV. Yep, I'm that way about most things. I have often sat there shouting at ads, giving out ads on the TV, and my family are looking at me like I'm weird, and it would be the most stupid things. So yeah, fair play. Your wife probably right. Mohit Patel said, I feel like our attacking build-up is so slow, we've no urgency and are too patient at times, not helping our forwards enough. There's definitely a lack of tempo moving the ball through the lines. There is. You can keep trotting out the low block excuse if you're the manager over and over again, but City find the way past low blocks. You know, they pass them to death. They find a way. We need to make sure we can do the same. So, answers on a postcard as to what we're doing with the ball around at the back. I don't get that. Side to side, side to side, side to side. And not just when the centre-backs have the ball, but why are we going from deep inside the opponent's half back to the halfway line? Like, it feels like we're almost afraid to give the football away because we're so susceptible to being countered. And we're being overly cautious doing that, and it doesn't lead to enough attacking intent. And it still hasn't protected us defensively. So I'd like to see Arna let the handbrake off and just, like we've said, push everybody 10 yards up the pitch, wing backs really advanced, press, 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 because that hasn't even looked likely. That hasn't looked like the old Liverpool. Pressing needs to be a higher tempo. It needs to be done with more intensity. We need to get everybody up the pitch more. Yes, we need to trust the offside trap and we need to trust the goalkeeper in behind, but we need to condense the pitch, we need to force errors, and we need to start turning over the ball up that end of the pitch and moving the ball quicker. I don't think any of us are happy with the tempo of the way we've been playing so far. Right, so we asked, do you believe Mark A is more likely to join Spurs? 81% of over 1,500 people said no. So let me ask the same thing. Simple question, a yes or a no one. Right. Do you think we are too slow with moving the ball? You know, because it's really interesting to me to see if my views or some of the more communicative people in the community's views are actually matched by some of maybe the silent watchers as well. So I want to know, do you think that we aren't moving the ball quick enough? You know, regardless of what else you think of our system or how patient you are with the way we're playing, I would like to believe that this is something we're all in agreement on, or pretty close to all being in agreement on, that we're not moving the ball quick enough. You'll Never Walk Alone 20 said, we also need to focus more on set pieces. We haven't scored a single corner except from our captain. Definitely, at both ends of the pitch. Now, I don't know if it's unlucky but a lot of the headed chances recently have been falling to Canade, and he hasn't been able to take them. The one against Galatasaray was a really poor miss, like 3 yards out, unmarked, and he puts it wide. So we definitely need to be better from set pieces, but I don't think we should be against a long throw-in either. I can't remember the last time we've gone for a long throw-in. And I keep coming back to that game against Crystal Palace. We had the chance to do what they did to win the game 5 minutes before that, and we ended up throwing it backwards to the halfway line. And we were probably a few yards more advanced than the area they were when they put that long throw in that led to Eddie Nketiah's goal that won them the game. Is it that we're too arrogant? Like, are we too good to try a throw in? We should. A flick on any moment, chaos. Anything can happen. We shouldn't be against a long throw, is what I'm saying here. Chuck it in and let them fight for it. Who knows what happens? Second ball breaks, a handball, a foul, anything can happen. But by going backwards and keeping possession, what are we doing there? You know, we're having to reset an attack again when everybody is back behind the ball. It makes it infinitely more difficult. It feels like there's almost an arrogance from our manager and that he doesn't like that style of English football. You know, I'll take you to a comment he said the other day. And I hope it'll back up what I'm trying to say now. 1 second. He said something the other day along the lines of, other leagues, you kind of don't get away with roughing up the keeper. And now in the Premier League, it's like the set piece is a game inside the game. And he almost sounded as if he was looking down his nose at the possibility of these set pieces. Or, you know, it's not high enough quality to just lump one into the box. No one's asking to do that at every opportunity, but mix it up. You know, there's nothing wrong with sticking your 6'4" centre backs up there with Ryan Gravenberch or whomever and trying something from if you're 1-1 or you're chasing the game late in it. Just anything. Just give them something to think about. Craig, we need to be more daring and aggressive. It's our turn to take the handbrakes off, said Vera Tia. I agree. I think we're in between styles. And I keep coming back to this point. I have to assume he wants the PSG style because he goes on about it and talks about it. But we're not seeing that. We're not seeing the full dedication to it. Here's the weird thing, right? If we as fans seen Arna and the players trying something that we could see a clear identity to, but there were failures in it because of individual mistakes or not understanding the patterns of the way he wants it to happen, I think we'd sit back and go, oh, all right, it's not working now, but we can see what he's trying to do. And when it clicks, you know, we can see the upside of it. I think most of us would agree with that. But right now, what we as fans seem to be seeing is the mistakes still happening, but no clear identity of what we're trying to do that's maybe causing us to make mistakes. A good example is the Russell Martin style of football. Goes to a club and is adamant he's playing out from the back. Whether he has the personnel to it or not, he's playing out from the back, that's the identity. I don't know what ours is at the minute. Jay Cliff said, Craig, all well and good wanting to control the ball and dictate the play. I think we need to do 70% heavy metal football, 30% composure, but letting teams reset time and time again is making it hard on us. I agree. No disagreement. Even going back to the pass and accuracy percentage, Palace's against us was only high 60s because they took those chances that you're talking about, Jay Cliff, that we haven't been. I don't care if we have an 88, 89% passing accuracy or a 50% passing accuracy if we win the game. So sometimes it will be lower if you're taking those risks. And there's nothing wrong with taking a rest in possession either. You know, the good teams do that. You can have a rest in possession. It's better than chasing around the field, chasing shadows. So yeah, nothing wrong with having a rest in possession. But again, I keep coming back to the same thing. I don't know what we're trying to do. Because, you know, what is moving the ball from side to side? You know, if the answer is try to find the perfect pass, it ain't going to happen. It doesn't exist when you've got 11 men behind the ball. Teams are too good to give you passing channels through the middle when you've given them a chance to get back behind the ball. You can only get in behind if you cause errors or if you go direct and long quickly. So we're too predictable. And it seems like Oliver Glasgow knew exactly how to set up against us and how to nullify us. And it worked. You know, Galatasaray's game plan was a bit different, to be fair. They were, once they got ahead, it was a piss take with the referee, the amount of clock time that was being killed and injuries that were being feigned and all this other stuff. But Palace just knew what we were going to do, and that worried me. Paul said, the fullbacks too far forward are leaving us stretched on the counter, 4-5-1. with Mo on the left, striker, support 2 with Wirtz as a 10. So here's where I disagree with you, Paul. Excuse me, mate. I don't think the fullbacks are forward enough and that's causing us a problem. So what you've said about us being countered, the way that system and the way PSG and Enrique play it is that the only way you're going to get countered is a long ball into that space. But you should have the cover from a centre-back or a goalkeeper to mop that up. So we should be having teams resort to having to go long because we're penning them in, pressurise them. Don't let them play off in the back. If you try to play off in the back, well, we're going to nick the ball off you, like Chiesa did against Southampton. We're going to press, and you're going to get so damn frustrated with it that all you can do is try to hit the channels. But we shouldn't be giving them the time to get their head up to do that. If you half press and you're playing that system and you're not fully committed into it, it's giving them a second more to get their head up to see where the space is. But if we're at it and we're aggressive in it, they don't have that time and space. They panic and they just go long. And that's where we started again. Wirtz gets the ball, we go again. Just keep the press. Everything to me comes from the tempo of our press. And if it's not on, and if we're not at it, and if we're not aggressive in it, we can be played through too easily. And it is absolutely unfathomable to me how one pass always unlocks us. One straight pass, and that's it. Our defence is split open. It's that easy. PSG style won't work in the Prem. Again, I would disagree. I just don't think we're really committing to the style. I think it will work because it's not a million miles away from what from what Klopp did and what Slott's trying to do. Like what we were masters at under Jurgen was creating chaos and turning games into basketball games and backing ourselves to have more quality in those hectic moments. With Arne, it all feels too football by numbers at the moment, and it's not committed to either style. It's just going through the motions, and it feels so, what's the word I'm looking for? Overly engineered is probably the phrase. What was it? I think it was Nigel Clough or somebody who said football is a simple game complicated by idiots. And I don't think much about that statement is wrong. Yes, you want to be well drilled. Yes, you want to have your patterns of play. Yes, you want to know your positions. But at the end of it, it's not a complicated sport. It's not a fucking complicated game. You know, you want to out-muscle, outwit, outpace, outfight, and put that round thing in the goal. So the object is to put that thing in the goal and not concede. So let's not overcomplicate it more than it needs to be at times. And sometimes football, particularly modern football, is just too much like a game of chess. Just be aggressive, be quick-tempoed, and back your players that have the quality to succeed. Jurgen always backed our forwards or our midfield to get the job done. Because he would say, if this goes to a game, look back to the early games against Manchester City when they were the better team. They were winning league titles and they were the better team. But when we played them, we didn't let them play the way Pep Guardiola wants them to play. We didn't let them kill us with possession. We didn't let them have 1,000 passes. We absolutely got up in their faces and caused mayhem. And that's where your Bobby Firminos, your Sadio Mane's, your Mohamed Salah, we're finding those chances and moments and we're getting balls, second balls halfway inside their half. Much different, much better, much more impactful. With Arne, I'm going to say it's boring at the moment. I don't think it's always been boring, but at the moment it feels boring. And I don't see what the plan is, what the agenda is with it. I don't get it. So, a couple more things. This LFC transfer room posted earlier on, so I want to give them credit. They say at Bola VIPBR that said Liverpool have been watching Gremio forward Allison Edward, 19 years of age, in the last few months and have been studying a potential approach. Liverpool are preparing an offer for the player, with the Brazilian side expecting an offer in January. Now, I know nothing about this young man. His name is spelled Alysson, so Alysson, and then Edward. So Allison Edward, 19 years of age, Gremio forward, and apparently Liverpool are looking at him, and they are expecting an offer on the Brazilian side in the next window. So, take from that what you will. I'm sure there are people with a far greater knowledge of Brazilian football than me. I don't know anything about him. Did you hear Jamie Carragher after the game, and did you agree with what he said? So, I've seen a lot of quotes after the game, but I'll need to know what in particular that you meant, GM, which quote and which point that he was making. What's the news with the Ekitike injury? Well, it looks like it's quite good, Raz. Whilst we haven't had a confirmation yet, he was called up to the French squad. So if he's called up to the French squad, you'd have to say that he's fit, right? So, it looked like, and it was reported that it was just cramp. That's why he went off. So fingers crossed that's the case. But I'm sure we'll get more information on this tomorrow from Arna. But the fact that he has been included in the French squad that Didier Deschamps announced, you'd have to think it's looking pretty decent that he'll be all right. Let's talk about Adam Wharton. So, this report from Ben Jacobs for the United Stand, who obviously United have an interest in Wharton as well. This piece here that Ben Jacobs was on there with them said, there's a kind of gentleman's agreement next summer that if Adam Wharton doesn't sign a new deal, he can leave Crystal Palace somewhere in the region of 60 to 65 million. And Anfield Edition asks, is this a deal we should be all over? Simple answer for me is yes. Because we need another person there. So 60 to 65 million pound. What are we saying? Are we taking Wharton at 60 to 65 million pound? Or do you think it's a little bit too much, or too much to spend on a player that may not necessarily play every single week unless he's pushing Gravenberch out of the side, or we're playing with a double pivot? But if we're playing with double pivot of him and Gravenberch, then I'm more concerned about where we're going to be putting your Macas, your Soboslais, your Wirtz, your Jones. But as a fan, of course, as a greedy fan, you want as many options as possible in any position. So it will be a yes from me at 60 million. What do you think about Grav playing centre-back? No, not for me. I know this. I'm so sorry to keep repeating the same thing, and I don't mean to be a broken record, but we wouldn't have signed Ryan Gravenberch as a centre-back. So I don't want him playing centre-back. I don't want Endo playing centre-back. I want centre-backs playing centre-back. And in our case, yes, we've been unfortunate that Giovanni Leone had an injury. And yes, we were unlucky not to get Mark Guehi at the end of the season. But I don't want square pegs and round holes anymore. I want centre-backs playing centre-backs, right-backs playing right-back, left-back playing left-back. So, no more solutions. The solutions have to come in the transfer market for me going forward. You Never Walk Along 20 said Wharton will be very expensive next season. Clubs like Real will be in for him. But clubs like Real Madrid will never pay what the likes of a Liverpool or a Manchester United or an English club would, because there's a premium for our clubs with him being homegrown. So I do think it is more likely that he stays in the Premier League, because the real value in a sale there is to a Premier League club, because I don't think you'll get the same money sending him abroad. Am I worried about Macca's performances? Asks Senan Donnelly. It's a question, Senan, that I've been asking myself quite a bit, mate, over the past few weeks. And I still don't know if I know the answer. Am I happy with the performances? No. But none of you are. And I would say he isn't either. But there is a caveat to that we don't quite know how much he was struggling in pre-season that caused him to have that delayed start. And then, of course, he's become a father as well recently, and congratulations on that. I don't know if that has that, and again, really don't have a clue if that has something to do with it or not. Don't know if there's anything else weighing on his mind. But he doesn't look like the same player that we know he's capable of being. And it's either a fitness or a form thing with him. So no, I'm not really worried, but I hope we see him get back to himself soon, because we have a huge sample size of how good he is to know that it's not going to be that he just isn't good enough. It's going to be some other reason that I'm sure will work itself out over the course of some weeks and months. Right, so do you think we're too slow moving the ball is the poll that we have up at the minute. If you haven't answered it, please do. We've had about 670 odd votes. We're asking, do you think we are moving the ball too slowly? So, a couple of things. Don't forget, this shirt is getting given away on Saturday, so only 3 more days to enter if you haven't. Thank you to our friends at the Collector's Corner who've given us this prize to give away. All you need to do to find out exactly how to enter is get yourself over to the Anfield Agenda Instagram account at Anfield Agenda, and you will see there. Also, our last show, whatever tickets are left, and I haven't really checked in today, so I don't know. There was about 40 left last time I checked. If you want to come and see us, we're going to be in Liverpool 19th of October for the last ever stage show for us at the Hot Water Comedy Club. Tickets are priced at £15, and all the ticket revenue from our side will be going towards the GoFundMe for Joe Lewis's wheelchair basketball chair. And thank you to everyone that's already got their tickets. There'll be myself, Chris, Steve, and we hope a musical act on the night, but certainly myself, Chris and Steve will be there, and Brian, LFC USA, will be there on the night as well, and he'll be doing the intros. Nems LFC said, do you think we win this weekend? You know what, mate? Call me an old fool, but I do, mate. I do, yeah. Because I don't think Chelsea are pulling up any trees lately either. So I don't think we're going to a hugely informed team. Now, you can say the same about us, and that's more than fair. But I do. I think they won't want this to go to 3 losses in a row. And also, they won't want to go into the international break not top of the Premier League, which could happen this weekend. Even with a draw, that could happen. Tony said, hey, Craig, they're still missing Jota. Of course. There's no doubt in my mind that is, I don't know how much of a portion, but a significant portion of some of what we've seen so far. They're human. Absolutely. But I guess if you're Arna and you're in and around the players in the changing room, you'd probably get to understand who's struggling more with it, or who's still grieving more deeply, or who's impacted, who can't compartmentalize it. And then you have to adjust accordingly. So there will always be a pain there that will be carried right through with this group. Absolutely. And it's one that I'm sure cuts deep, because he was like a brother to these guys as well. So it's up to Arna then to try to figure out if it is impacting on the performances or the ability to perform of some players. And by the way, that's absolutely fine, because they're human beings. Then he should be taking them out of the limelight for a little bit and going for the ones that maybe are able mentally at that moment to compartmentalize it a bit more. Tony said, Salah, I feel impacted the most. It could, I don't know if we can say anybody's been impacted the most, or because, some people can just keep it internally. But Salah, you can see he's visibly shaken. You could see it after some of the games as well. And like I've said, when you're that age, when you're in your mid-20s, and especially when you're an athlete like these guys, we've all been young at one point. You think you live forever. You think you're invincible. And if you add into that you're this super fit, supreme athlete with, you probably feel that as well. So this was no doubt a huge moment in their lives as human beings, as well as, of course, you know, a moment for reflection on themselves as well. I'm just trying to see I'm trying to find Ian's comment. Sorry, I see a lot of people commiserating with Ian, so I'm just trying to see exactly what it is so I can offer my support. Bear with me. I can't seem to find what the comment was from Ian. Maybe somebody can let me know. But apologies, Ian. I'm still looking for it, mate. Oh, so sorry for the messages. It's the wife of Ian Byrne, the Darlington FC fan. Unfortunately, he's passed away yesterday. Oh my goodness. Oh, fucking hell. So I always enjoyed Ian coming in, and he always identified himself as the Darlington fan. I'm so sorry. He was always such a lovely guy in here. I would have nothing. I don't know Ian on a personal level, but I always enjoyed my interactions with him. He was always a positive contributor to our community and to our channel. I'm really sorry to hear of his passing, and I extend my love, my family's love, and I'm sure the community's to you and your family. I'm so sorry. You know, I really am. I'm so sorry. Like I said, I didn't know Ian on a day-to-day basis, but the little glimmer I did get to know of him, I enjoyed every second I interacted with him, and always he always put a smile on my face. So from all of us, sincere condolences to you and your family, on the passing of your husband. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, even my own psychologist still suffering with long COVID. It's, you know, man, that's fucking hell. It's just the world, man. The world can be so fucking cruel and unfair at times. Sláinte to Ian. And again, thank you for sharing it with us, and thank you for letting us know. And all of us, as you can see, how everyone in this chat recognises Ian as a Darlington fan. And like I said, sending you all of our love. So, as much as it's difficult to move on from a subject like that, and I wanted to speak about Chiesa for a moment. Lewis Steele wrote that Italian manager Gennaro Gattuso is very pleased with Chiesa's start to the season and considering calling up the Liverpool forward to the Italian national team for the first time since Euro 2024. So congrats to Chiesa on that if he gets called up. And there was another story I wanted to bring to your attention as well. It was on Sky, so you know it's very well researched and factual, so I feel comfortable enough reading it out. But again, it's a story that does contain some disturbing topics. So if there's any kids watching or parents with children, for the next couple of minutes, I'll be discussing something that's a very, it's not for kids. Is basically where I'm going with it. So I'll give everyone a couple of seconds just in case they need to mute their phone or whatever, because I'm about to discuss a very sensitive subject. So I read this on Sky earlier on, and it says, an English Football League assistant referee who preyed upon young women has been jailed for a string of child sex offences involving teenage girls. They name him as Gareth Vickers of Milton Keynes, previously pleaded guilty to 16 counts, including sexual communications with a child, meeting with a child following sexual grooming, causing or inciting a child to engage in sexual activity and engaging in sexual activity with a child. The offences span 3 years between November 2021 and 2024. He was jailed for 13 and a half years, with a further 3.5 years suspended, with a further 3.5 years extended licence at the same court. So I don't really know where to go with that story, or what to say about it, but it's a disgusting thing. Not the type of thing I'm sure anybody wants involved in football either, at any level, whether it's a player or an official. So good that justice was done, and 13 and a half years in prison, is any sentence ever enough? With the marks and the scars that these guys and people leave on these vulnerable people's lives. Sonder said, R.I.P. everyone in this community is a special place. Hope his family gets the time and support in this difficult time. Craig, you're the man. Love you. Appreciate you. See, there's often times, Sonder, I maybe wouldn't really remember somebody. So somebody will come in and go, hey, Craig, it's blah, blah. I don't know if you remember me. And, sometimes you'd have to say, honestly, no, I don't. But I remember Ian. Definitely remember Ian many, many times chatting with him in here. I didn't even know he was unwell, to be honest. So to hear he passed, I'm very sorry. But also, there is a point I want to make about that referee story. I just don't know how to make it without being blunt. So I'm going to try, because I think it's an important point to make. I'm fed up of an assumption that everybody involved in the world of refereeing are model human beings. I'm fed up of it. I'm fed up of people saying that there is no way, no chance, no how that any of these people are dodgy, iffy, suspect people in any way, shape or form, and how dare we challenge any of their integrity or decision making, because in no walk of life is that the case. I'm not saying referees or the PGMOL's officials or anybody else are in any way or less more dodgy than any other walk of life. I'm sure there are a percentage of YouTubers who are dirtbags. I'm sure there's a percentage of plasterers, shop attendants, whatever. But I'm fed up of being told that I have to just treat everybody as though they're saints. Because I can go to 5 or 6 stories now about officials and referees who've been uncovered to be dirtbags. And on top of that, I've heard who Sky now have as a pundit, Mike Dean, tell us, the football world, that he didn't want to send his mate to the monitor because he didn't want to get in grief. And yet he's rewarded with a job to go, here you go, you're going to be our refereeing pundit who we're going to call upon for your assessment of these situations. I don't know what message that sends. Because, and I have a real gripe with Sky about this, because I find Sky so fucking condescending towards the rest of the world that they tell us how we should feel. They tell us about hate. They tell us about inclusivity. They tell us about everything because it ticks their little boxes and it makes them feel like, well, we've done this. We've said the right thing. But are you living the right thing? Are you doing the right thing? Because how is rewarding somebody that has openly told you of their deception with a high profile position not undermining the integrity of it and what you're doing? It pisses me off. And then you've got Gary Neville telling us that how dare anybody question referees or their integrity or anything else. How dare they? And you've got lads hoovering up lines of Charlie in UEFA hotel rooms. You know, I just have a real problem with people speaking down their noses to us as football fans and thinking that we are there to be told how to feel, how to think, what to do. It really winds me up because I think football fans are hugely mistreated in a lot of walks of life, in the way that they're policed, in the way that we're not allowed to interact, in the way that they're not allowed to have alcohol. So many things I feel us football fans get spoken down to. And by companies at times and people that aren't fit to lace their fucking boots. So I don't need or want my morals taught to me by Sky Broadcast. Thank you very much. My parents did that job and I made up my own morals in life as I go on. I know what's right or wrong. I don't need you telling me how to feel or what to do. And yes, there's a way to be educational about it. Of course there is. But I find it really condescending, the way that they go on some of the time. And I also find it really condescending that we're supposed to believe that there is no shenanigans going on, ever, with referees, ever. That there isn't any grudges held, that there isn't any gripes, that there aren't referees that have it in for a certain manager or player. Unless we can have that conversation openly and honestly, you're never fixing the problem because they're untouchable. And anybody in any walk of life that is unpleasable and untouchable is a fucking problem. So why do football have a problem with transparency? And why do these big institutions know what to say publicly, but a lot of them aren't walking the walk? So how do you reward somebody that tells you they didn't do their job? How do you then go and go, you're the guy, you're the guy, you're the guy we want telling kids and families how to referee games of football. But you're also the guy on the same platform that said you didn't do your fucking job. And not because you got it wrong, because that can happen. No problem with anybody making a mistake. Mistakes happen in life. We all make them. But then telling us you did it because you didn't want your mate to go to the monitor to get grief. While some lad's having his hair pulled and a team's getting shafted. And you're happy for them to get shafted because you didn't want your mate to get in trouble. Fuck you. That's how I view that. Fuck you. Not here have a job. You know, we need to... football really has a transparency problem. Whether it's the situation with Man City, whether it's the Court of Arbitration for Sport and the very shady shit going on there, whether it's World Cups going all over the place for bag loads of money, it just has a massive credibility and transparency problem. And it needs to be sorted out. Because I'm fed up as a fan of being spoken down to by these people. And I'm fed up of having to pretend that everybody's nicey nice and brilliant. It's not the way of the world. Billy said, if I told my boss that I failed to do my job correctly, I'd get fired. Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine you went in to your boss and said, me mate came in there and you worked in a builders providers. Me mate came in there and I noticed that he went out without paying. You know, he went out there with 5 bags of cement and he didn't pay. But I didn't want me mate to get in grief. So I didn't tell you. How do you think your boss is going to go? How do you think the man who's just been shafted out of 5 bags of cement in his company, or the woman that's shafted out of 5 bags of cement in their company, are going to feel if you tell them that you've seen this fella breaking the rules and screwing over them, but you didn't want to do that to get your mate in trouble? Of course you're getting fired. Of course you are. Because that's the way the world works. Anthony wants the information on Alisson. No problem, dude. No problem. So, David Ornstein today, mate, said that it's looking like 6 weeks for Alisson out, unfortunately, which means that he's going to miss a whole lot of important games for us. We're talking about Chelsea, Man United, Real Madrid, Man City, and some other games that he's going to miss. But the really weird thing was, there was a set of stats put out there, I think it was from the Premier League, and our points per match and our win percentage amazingly goes up when Alisson isn't there, which almost confounds thinking, right? You think surely without Alisson we get weaker. And in some areas we do. But madly, the points per game and the percentage. Now, it could be because it's a much smaller sample size. Because, we're talking about 37 games without Alisson versus 235 with Alisson. So, there is that to take into account as well. Peter said, I'm nervous and excited about Chelsea and hope they improve and do a number on them. Yeah, it would feel great, won't it, if Liverpool go and get a win, put in a good performance, and we head off into the international break knowing we're top of the league. Because after it, there's some tough games coming up as well, like we've said. We'll have Real Madrid in the Champions League. First game back is Manchester United at Anfield after the break. Got Manchester City away coming up as well. So you kind of almost want to have that bit of wiggle room. But it's going to feel like a very long 2 weeks if we don't go into this international break top of the league, having been 5 points up not so long ago. Actually, 2 weeks ago. Which is why I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game and we're going to win it. Watch it be 0-0 now and I'll have jinxed it. But I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Right, so something else here. Build have said that Liverpool are interested in Bayern Munich forward Michael Olise, and Liverpool are the most keen on his signing, according to Build. LFC Transfer Room credit them for the post on X. Said, a poker game is set to begin as a number of clubs are wanting the French winger as well as Bayern hoping to renew him. Now, this story I don't think is going to go away for a while, either until he signs an extension at Bayern or until Liverpool bring in somebody else longer term when Mohamed Salah moves on. But this one, to me, still has lots of legs on it to go. So keep your eye on it, because I really do feel like he's probably the obvious one as well. In 2 years' time, if Salah's contract was up and he was to depart, at least I'd be 25 then. Which, if you look at the history of Liverpool spending pretty much big money on players, that's probably the sweet spot age-wise. So I think there's genuine credibility to the idea of Olise, and for me, I think it would be a really, really good fit as well. In whether it be 1 year, 2 years, or whatever, it's the most obvious one, and I think it's the best fit. But like, he is a Bayern player, we've got to respect that side of it as well. I'm just making sure I haven't forgotten any of the stories. I think I've done those percentages. What's this one? Oh, yeah. So the German national team sporting director, Rudi Völler, was speaking a little bit about Florian Wirtz, and he said, Florian shouldn't let himself get carried away. I have no concerns about that. He'll show the English what he's made of. Florian is playing in a new league, in a new club. These are normal adjustment problems. Almost every professional has them. I have no doubt that his running and playing ability, he will make the breakthrough. And on top of that, we have a little quote from King Kenny as well, which is very King Kenny-esque in his wording, and I love it. He said, speaking about Florian Wirtz, what I think he needs to do first is what he's doing at the moment. He's great at taking the ball into feet. He'll open himself up and he'll pass, and the pass has beat you and he's still got control of it. That wee fella could open a can of soup. Words there from King Kenny. Let's talk about another thing. Shearer's assessment of Isak versus Haaland, which is something I haven't actually read out yet. So for Alan Shearer, the comparison with Isak and Haaland is unavoidable, but not entirely straightforward. Speaking on Amazon Prime, this is what Shearer had to say. I think they're very different. I wouldn't argue that Erling Haaland isn't the best goal scorer in the world, but Isak is an incredible footballer and can do things Haaland can't do with a football. He gives you different options. Haaland is without a doubt more of a killer. He'll score more goals than Isak, but running with the ball, touch and technique, Isak is better than Haaland. They're both excellent players, but both very different. I think that's a pretty fair assessment from Shearer. And I probably agree with him as well. Haaland is a goal poacher, a finisher, a machine. His numbers speak for themselves. But I also agree with him on what he said about Isak. Isak has other elements that maybe Haaland doesn't have to his game. And if you're judging it just on goal scoring numbers, Haaland will probably more often than not come out on top. But I guess what they both contribute to their team, it depends how you measure that and what's important to you. Because a lot of times you'll see Haaland who, mightn't be in a game at all, but he'll have one or two moments. Maybe like Salah for us at times when he's having a quieter game. You'll always have a moment. Same with Haaland. He can just put a cross in, he can bully a defender, win a header, or, power through a finish. So I thought it was an interesting assessment from Shearer, and I thought a pretty fair and balanced one as well. So 93% of people think we are moving the ball too slowly, and 7% of people are either not Liverpool fans or very surprisingly satisfied with the way we're moving the ball. Jamie Carragher said we're playing more like a basketball team. Yeah, I kind of need him to expand on that before I'd be able to understand what exactly he means by it. Because I'm not I'm not a basketball fan, so I don't really understand what he's trying to get at by we're more like a basketball team. Is that what he means about moving players into certain areas and going through specific patterns or something? I don't know. He means we're too open. Okay. Well, he ain't wrong. I mean, I don't think any of us would agree that we're defensively solid and shutting teams out. So if he means we're too open, then, we ain't wrong. We are. Which is weird because I feel like some of the trade-off, and I mentioned this last season as well, even the title-winning season, I felt like we almost traded off a little bit more attacking edge to have that solidity of not giving the ball away. But at the minute, I feel like we're in between, and I keep coming back to in between two systems, and we're not seeing the benefit of either side of it. So we're not seeing the benefit of increased attacking, nor are we seeing the solidity of a more measured, calm approach to keep balls out. We're still leaking goals. I think Arteta said something like, have Arsenal had 13 clean sheets in 18 games or something like that? I can't remember the exact number he said in his post-Olympiacos interview, but it was some impressive number that they've had of clean sheets. And if we can get the balance right of keeping a clean sheet is going to give you a chance. It's going to give you a real good chance, especially when you've got the attacking talent that we have. So if we can get back to, keeping, even conceding one a game, I'd still back us in most games to find a way to get two. I'm not necessarily saying we have to have clean sheets all the time, but we need to have that solid base to build from. Carragher's meaning end-to-end. You see, I don't think he is, Elliot, because that isn't us. Like, we very much aren't end-to-end under Arne. Under Klopp, I think we might have been. And I've used the term basketball game under Klopp, back and forth, you go, we go, you attack, we attack, you attack, we attack, you attack, we attack, and space appears. So if he does mean that, then I disagree, because I think we're the exact opposite of that. We're almost like football by numbers at some point, where there's these little triangle patterns that just keep getting utilised over, but are all often all too times predictable. David said, I know you have your opinions on pundits on Sky, but Carragher's analysis fun to watch. I don't have anything against any of the pundits on Sky. I'm more talking about the institution of Sky than I am about individual pundits. Like, I've complimented Kaveh Solokol for defending Liverpool fans when the accusations were thrown at our fans in Paris in the Champions League final, and he was there saying, this is not what we're seeing. So, look, I have a lot of stuff I do respect individual people at Sky for as well. And Monday Night Football is an institution now that was, Carragher and Neville created with great punditry, great takes, great analysis, and it's changed the game. But I wish they'd stick to that and stop trying to come into YouTubers' worlds of watch-alongs and hot takes and, our world, which they'll never be able to do with the same freedom that we are able to do it, because they can't use the same choice language, and they can't be maybe as critical as we would want to be, because their jobs necessitate they have to be able to then go and talk to somebody the next week who maybe they've been critical of the week before, whereas, I don't really have that problem. Sunil said, I believe our attackers will gel and click in time, but if we don't sign Guehi in January, our title defence will be in jeopardy. I don't know what's going to happen with Mark Guehi, Sunil. I hope we sign him in January, but if it's not him, I would say we have to sign somebody in January. Somebody. David said, I don't mind the overlap. The watch-alongs I don't like, but I love the collabs with content creators. See, I've got a real gripe about that one, David, and I will openly tell you it's bitterness. On this one, I'll be honest with you and say, I don't watch the overlap because I'm fed up of being blanked when it's time for a Liverpool content creator. I'm fed up of being kept out in the cold, so I don't watch it because it pisses me off. There's not many things that I will say to you I'm bitter about, but constantly being kept out in the cold is one of them. And so that for that reason, I don't tune in, because, like I said, I feel a bit bitter about all of that stuff. I can't lie, I do. Rightly or wrongly, I'm being honest. Craig, would you be happy if we play how we are at the moment, but in January we go on a relentless streak, exactly like PSG did? It's a tough one to answer, because in one way, if it ended up with us winning the Champions League and we ended up, I don't know, finishing third in the league, one of the two big ones, you can't not be happy for that. If you win one of the two big ones, I'd say that's a good year, any year. So, if we don't do it in the league and we win the Champions League, I'll still look back on the season and think, W, because Arna's delivered the European Cup. So would I take that? Yes, I would. But it's almost an impossible thing to guarantee, isn't it? Whereas if you're consistent over the course of the year in the league, you have a good chance. But I would take it, yeah. I wouldn't mind a Bastoni at Liverpool, said Darwizzy. Oh, dude, I think many of us would say yes to a Bastoni. And he's been linked with us. But, I don't know, it doesn't feel like one that I think is going to happen. Naddy said, why we still haven't replaced Fabinho, and if Arna is trying the number 10 to be effective like Arsenal's, then we ignored to sign a good defensive midfielder. I think it's understandable points, Naddy. It's weird because we're talking about that and I don't disagree, but I also feel that when I'm saying that, I'm somewhat disrespectful to Gravenberch, because there's a lot of great things that he does in that position. He probably ticks 8 out of 10 boxes to play that position. But does he have that combative shield of the defence? Well, not now, because Aaron is asking him to get forward a bit more and give him a bit more licence. And that's out of the player's mouth, not mine. So, agree with you on that one. The number 10 one feels, like a gripe many Liverpool fans would ask right now. We brought in a real top quality number 10, but we're not seeing an understanding of how to utilise that number 10 just yet. So I think both your points have more than enough validity to them. I just feel a little bit dirty to say anything negative about Gravenberch, because I think he's been one of our standout players. But that point of what you've made, I think, would be maybe the one weakness to his game. Gamer72, keep up the good work. Top man, appreciate you. Thank you. Craig, do you like a starting lineup of Ekitike, Isak, Salah, or do you want Gakpo, Chiesa to be starting? I mean, look, would I mind Ekitike, Isak, Salah? No, not at all. Not at all. Same way, if you put Chiesa in there, I wouldn't mind Chiesa either. What I don't want is it not working. Whatever makes it work, whether that's, Ekitike, Isak, Salah, whether that's Gakpo, Isak, Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, Chiesa, whatever the combo is, I'm open to it as long as we start to click. Sharkovic said, DM is not a problem. Gravenberch needs to pass the ball between the lines more. A fit Maka will unlock Wirtz. So you've said it's not a problem. You didn't say it's not the problem. So I would disagree that it isn't a problem. It might not be the problem, the biggest one, but I do think it is a problem. But I also think we're not defending from the front enough. And that, I think, contributes to it as well, Sharkovic. So like I said, it probably isn't just a one thing, a one answer, a one switch. It's probably a combination. Which cup is preferable to win this season, the Champions League or the English Premier League? So I go back and forth on the answer to this question, and it often depends on the context of time. So this one is a particularly tough one because we're talking about back-to-back, which removes any of the shit from you got lucky, other teams underperform, PGMOL title. Go back-to-back, nobody can talk to you about that. Or do you go the other side and say, right, we win a Champions League, it's another European Cup, 7, the lads are starting to complete the collection again, Arna's won a European Cup and a Premier League. So if I had to pick one this season, I'm probably 55% Champions League, 45% Premier League. And it feels like the players want the Champions League as well. Because, it's huge. The European Cup's it's a big deal. I also feel that if it was Arsenal's year to win the Premier League, and they did do it, if we had the other prize in European football, the other big one, the European Cup, I think it would take away some of this sting of maybe not retaining the league. So yeah, I'm gonna say the Champions League, but it is really close for me. If it was next year and we weren't defending a league title or had the ability to go back to back, I'd definitely say Champions League, and then I'd want 21 to go back clear of United. But yeah, Champions League is probably the answer for me this year. Natty said, what I mean is he's playing Maka as a holding midfielder and it's not working. Again, he decided to keep Endo and doesn't trust him either. So we haven't really got to see all that much of Maka at his best this season, but I do take your point, Natty. It's about finding the balance, isn't it? Do you go with one player and two attacking minded midfielders, or do you go with a double pivot and then a 10? It feels like he wants to go with the double pivot and the 10, but it's not working at the minute. So I do take your point. Peter said Arsenal winning anything would hurt. So this is a really interesting point. And I'm going to make this the last point of the evening. So a lot of people are fearful of Arsenal winning the Premier League because they don't want to listen to the fans. I kind of have a different view on it. I would rather Arsenal win the Premier League than Manchester City, who I feel have done it in a very grubby way. Like, sport is sport at the end of the day. and sportsmanship is a part of sport. And I have no problem being bested by a better team that have done it within the rules. It sucks, it hurts, it stings, but I'd have respect for it. So if Arsenal win the Premier League this year, as much as I would hate to have to listen to their fans go on about it, I'd respect it and I'd congratulate them sincerely on it, because they've done it with a manager I don't like, with fans that can be very annoying at times, but within the rules, fairly. Not broken any rules. They win it, they're with a better team. And that, to me, deserves a congratulations and a handshake. And I know they didn't do it to us, but I always say to my kids and my missus, we can only judge ourselves on how we carry ourselves and not on how other people act. And to me, it would be important to come on publicly and congratulate Arsenal if they won the Premier League. It would break my heart to see it happen, but it's what I would do. And I would mean it, sincerely. Well done to them. But I every single time I see Manchester City's hands on a trophy, my blood boils, because I feel like it's based on really grubby foundations, and I don't like that. And the fact that it's still ongoing winds me up. But like I said, that's just my way of looking at it. But I fully understand why people wouldn't have the same thought process, because I don't remember too many of them congratulating us, around the fan content world especially. Lee did, absolutely did it to me personally, did it publicly. But that's my take on it. Give me an honest team winning, fair enough, I can take that. But cheats winning, and no, that boils my blood. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say goodnight to you. The preview for the Chelsea game is coming out in 7 minutes, 6 minutes now. If I can ask you a little favour before you head off, please do hit that like button for me. And again, don't forget to enter our competition over on our Instagram to win that signed Diogo shirt if you haven't already. Appreciate you guys, as always. Only 3 more days for me of live content before I'm away for the guts of 2 weeks. So I hope to see you 3 more times live before I head off for a couple of weeks. So appreciate you all as always. And thank you for joining.